Hey guys, welcome back. So, did a bunch of stuff off screen. I got a fairy. This should go well. I do have a topic, but I'm just gonna try to focus on this. I did notice in my last episode that I just looked weird, that I was sitting like this and I was looking this way. I don't think I'll ever get what I'm supposed to do with the camera down. Okay. Shoot, okay. The walkthrough said that was the easy part. Then... okay, I did it. Wait. Now, do I shoot him? Or what? Oh, go. That was it? Okay. Well, that wasn't great. It's hard to see. Okay, this is hard. Wow, this is hard. Okay, now give me the lens. Okay, that was pretty good. Right. Arrows, I need arrows. Okay, stop. Okay. What am I doing? No! Man. I guess the reason why you have to... Come on. Just shoot the thing. There we go, come on. Can I get that? Okay, good. Okay, this is a little bit easier, come on. Stop moving. Okay. We're doing it. Did I win? Okay. That wasn't too bad. I think that's the first time I've ever beaten a boss on the first try. Good job. I didn't write down the time. Whoops. What time is it? Oh, yes, I did. Sorry. Alright, good job. I had a note. And it was a tough one. So I don't really ever read whatever the sages say. I don't know. Oh, Link, you're so great. You saved us or whatever, and now do the next thing. And okay, that's it. That's all they say. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hate when I do that. It's annoying. So the Game Grumps made a statement about the Black Lives Matter thing this week, and they issued a thing that's like, well, that's what everybody says. We support the movement and all that good stuff. And then they did a second post, which was, we apologize for being insensitive in the past. That was surprising to me. What they're obviously referencing is that Aaron, one of the Game Grumps, has said the N-word a lot. Like, on Game Grumps and off Game Grumps. And I think he's apologizing for that. And I wanted to talk about my position on the N-word. So, this could go... Sorry, my eye. I don't know. I want to talk about stuff that's hard to talk about, and I don't want to be like a bull in a china shop about it and just be like, oh, I'm just going wherever I want to go and knocking everything down. I don't want to be like that. I want to be very cautious and try to talk about it smart, intelligently, and not hurt anybody. And just wade into these waters and just see what happens, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if maybe it's a bad idea to talk about. I don't know. This is my first time ever talking about something and like recording it, and so maybe it's a bad idea. But so first things first, my position is kind of that no white person should ever say the N-word. Pretty much ever. That's not a super brave stance to take. Especially now. That's not a brave stance to take now. Because there was this weird thing, even like 10 years ago, where it seemed like white people were starting to say it more and talk about it more and use the actual word. And I think it's because racism was more distant back then. It wasn't less. It was more distant to white people like us. We didn't really see it, but now we do see it more, like with the president and just specifically with certain things. We see it more. It's more real now than it was 10 years ago, even though it was still there 10 years ago. Just because a black person is president doesn't mean people aren't racist. But it did feel like the reason why... Actually, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go next. Is it just Gerudo? Okay. I think I remember how to do that. I think you need Epona to get there, which is interesting. Because when I was a kid, I never knew how to get Epona. But I never got that far. Anyway, so... I'm not super educated in this topic at all. But this is my... I would never use the N-word anyway, just because like I never curse. And it's just not part of my vocabulary. But... the reason why I think it's not okay to say, why I don't think anybody should say it, is because in America, I live in America, I'm an American. In America, there is a very specific history of racism, and specifically that word associated with racism. You can't separate those two things. Where I'm sitting right now, where I live right now, oh, my chair is squeaky, sorry. I don't want my stupid squeaky chair to undercut my opinion. There used to be slaves. I mean, New Jersey was the North, so in like 1850 there weren't slaves, but I'm sure in 1780 there were slaves. Where I'm standing right now, there were white people like me who owned black people. I'm an American, so I have to, even though of course I would never own slaves, and my family, I don't think my family ever owned slaves. I'm sure if you go back that far, most of my family was probably just in Italy, so but of course, nobody would ever say, oh, I would want to own slaves, or I would... Can I make this jump for once in my life? But I share that history, and I'm white, so it's part of my history and part of American history. It feels irresponsible to just ignore that history. People use that word, white people who lived where I live right now, use that word to make... I'm so sorry. To make black people feel less than human. To subjugate. And whenever you use that word, you're oops, I went the wrong way anyway, so you're saying, you're just being disrespectful to that history, I think, and saying, well, it's not that big of a deal. It happened long ago, and who cares? I think if in America we were totally not racist anymore, maybe it would be okay to say that word. It's hard to say. It's hard to control this thing. Okay, stop and turn. I do feel like I've always kind of felt that way about it. But recently, all this racial stuff has come up, and so it's easier to take that position than it used to be. When I heard Aaron say the N-word on Game Grumps, or John, I remember that happening, and I remember thinking, I just didn't like it. And it's not brave to say that or anything, but it is true, and I think that's the reason why I've always felt that way. When it comes to black people saying it, like, I don't know anything about that, so if, I don't know. Some black people think it's okay for black people to say, and some people don't, and I don't know anything. I don't know. I can't make a judgment on that, obviously. I just know, well, I can only ever say what, for me personally, what I should do, and I know I should never say it. And I can be a little bit more general and say, well, I don't think black people should ever say it either. I mean, white people should ever say it either, but that's just my opinion. I've never really heard, maybe I have, I've never really heard an explanation for why it's a bad thing to say. But I think that that's right. That's the right way to phrase it. People will just say, well, that's a racist word, and if you say it, you're racist. But they never really explain it more than that. And I think the way I explain it is kind of how you're supposed to think of it. Okay, that's wrong. Oh, I forgot. Because obviously everybody knows racism bad. Even racists know racism. Racism is bad. That's why they get offended when you call them racist. Because they don't want to be racist. But so you kind of need to explain to them why they're being racist. So that they know that they are, so that they won't be anymore. Because when you tell someone they're racist, the first thing they're going to do is disagree with you, because they don't want to be racist. But if you explain to them why their behavior is racist, I think they're more likely to be like, okay, I think if you want a racist person to not be racist anymore, you have to tell them that, well, you're just behaving racist. But, you know, in the future you can change and you don't have to be racist anymore. Because nobody wants to be racist. because I was also thinking about that. There's a Louis C.K. bit that he does where he talks about the N word, and I've always kind of disagreed with him on that. I guess the main point that he would say is when someone says the N word, the N word, just saying that, the N word. His whole bit was, you're just making me say it. You're making me say the N word in my head. So, what's the point of saying the N word? Why not just say the actual word? That's dicey. I don't agree with that. It's a funny way to think about it, and it's kind of a joke. I'm not someone who's ever going to get super offended by anything. But I am white, so I don't know. It's not really my place to not get offended or whatever. Oops, I went the wrong way. I don't think that's true. I think it's a funny way to think about it. But it's not true to say that you might as well just say the actual N-word if you're just going to say the N-word because you're making me say it in my head. That's not true. That's not true for me either. That's actually just not true. I mean, when someone says the N-word, I don't think about the actual N-word in my head. Because I've heard... It's hard to talk about this because, I don't know, because it's just like saying the N-word and then saying the actual N-word. It's hard to distinguish the two things. When I do this, quotes, it means saying the actual words, the N-word. And then when I don't do that, it means saying the actual N-word. If that makes sense. If you say to me, if we're having a conversation and you say the N-word instead of the actual N-word, it is different. I will react to it differently, and culturally it will just feel different. And I'm sure if you said the N-word to a black person or the actual N-word, or the N-word or the actual N-word, they would have different reactions to each one because they would have different experiences with each one, and culturally, my mouth is getting dry, so I'm not enunciating. This country has a history with that word. And it's disrespectful to not appreciate that history. And if you are saying, as a white person, just flippantly saying the N-word, I think you are disrespecting that history. That's how I feel about it. And I don't feel the same way about curse words. I really don't. I guess I feel this way about racist curse words. I don't really feel the same way about just like people cursing. I think it's kind of okay. There are derogatory terms for like gay people and stuff, which I don't think are okay for the same reasons. Am I way over? I think so. Whoops. Yeah, I think I did 20 minutes today. Whoops. Okay. I didn't feel like I made any progress though. Or did I beat Bongo today? I think I did. I don't remember. Yes, I did, right? Okay, so. White people, don't say the N-word. I don't think it's right. I know I'm so brave for saying that, but I do think that especially now. It is obvious, like, just to be more sensitive about the history of racism. And that word is a big part of that. So maybe we should just never say it. So, I guess that's it for today. I don't know. Hope you're having a good day. If you want to talk about anything, talk about it, and I'll talk about it with you. And I'll see you tomorrow.